we're going to be talking about the structural differential, which is probably the most important device in general semantics. In the beginning, which is where we're at, which is where we're always 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 at, in the beginning. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden there was something. Remember Heidegger saying that the question was that the question for philosophers, so I suppose we're philosophizing now, the question for philosophers was, why is there something rather than nothing? So we could call this something cosmos. So we could call this cosmos, or perhaps we should call it chaosmos. We'll see soon enough that this corresponds to the event level in Korzybski's structural differential, the event. But the very idea of cosmos is a kind of closed order. The very idea of cosmos. For me, cosmos means an order, a fixed order, closed order. But the event level of the structural differential is open at the top, as that means it's not a fixed order of things, rather it's a process of happenings. So before the Big Bang, nothing was happening. Split second after the Big Bang, happenings are happening. And happenings are happening. Happenings of happenings are happening. And happenings of happenings of happenings. And its happenings indefinitely into the future. There's no closure. We could also call this what is going on. So within what is going on on a certain day, experience started happening. Before that time, there was no experiencing. There were happenings, but no experiencings. So on this day, experiencings began. Or perhaps we could also add to that, evaluatings. I was wondering how to picture that. So of course, the first thing that comes to mind is an eye. It's the eye of thought, or the eye of consciousness. Well, the eye is traditionally in Western thought associated with an eye, a subject of consciousness and of thinking. So I didn't want to go there, as they say. So a mere half an hour ago, it came to me that I should picture this as a heart. Evaluatings or experiencings, which are sort of closer, in a sense, to feeling than to thought. The great mathematician, philosopher Alfred North Whitehead, who was one of the influences on Korzybski and to whose work I'll be briefly referring in the future from time to time, actually created a cosmology, a sort of totalizing philosophy of everything, one of the main points of which is that experiencing actually goes all the way down. He would say that the minute there was happening, there was already experiencing. Korzybski calls this the object level. So we have an event level, and within the event level arises the object level. And this is what Korzybski calls the label levels. So within life, then, there's this moment where language appears. What Korzybski calls the label level. So within the object, within the realm of experience and evaluating, verbal experiencing and verbal evaluating, or conceptualizing, verbalizing, talking, saying begins. And these are a whole bunch of levels as we see. We've got talking about what is going on. We've got saying about saying and saying. Now, my radical version of general semantics, I hope, is a kind of chaos effect. The structural differential is called that for two reasons. First of all, it differentiates. It differentiates levels of what is going on. It is an actual structure, a physical structure that children and others can not only look at in the distanced mode of identification, representation, they can actually get into it. They can not only look at it, but feel it, because it's a structure, a physical structure. Now, of course, it usually appears in the form of a two-dimensional diagram. But Korzybski really preferred for people to practice with the structural differential, not just to look at it, but to practice with the structural differential by not only looking at it, but handling it and feeling it. There's an event level, and there's an object level, and there's a label. Levels. The event level is a parabola, open at the top. In the structure, it has, well, in either the diagram or the structure, it has a whole bunch of holes in it. Korzybski made it himself and patented it in 1924-25. In our first take on the structural differential, we can say each of these holes represents a characteristic. Later on, we'll see that the term characteristic disguises a lot more than it expresses. But it's important to have those holes because from the holes, Korzybski lets strings fall, and the strings go to the next level, which is the object level. Well, this is the level of whatever is going on. Korzybski likes to call it the level of submicroscopic process going on indefinitely. Subatomic particles whirling without end. It's important to understand that the levels are all contained within what is going on. In Korzybski's structure and in this diagram, they occupy separate spaces, which can be misleading because these levels are not separate. They are simultaneous. Or as simultaneous as it's possible to be, given that there's no absolute simultaneity. So Scott made one where you've got the parabola open at the top, you've got the holes, you've got the little strings coming out of the hole, and then you've got the object level popping out, and then you've got the label level. All the way up to the highest label level attached to the event level of the safety. Isn't that wonderful? If you're working with a structural differential, Korzybski says you can actually, if you're practicing with it, you can actually go, hey, the label, you can feel it, is not the object. The object is not the event. You can not only see it, but feel it, because Korzybski thought it was very important in education to educate the senses if you want to characterize it as a negative epistemology. There's lots of Zen stories with an old monk and a young monk. They're sitting side by side, they're having a little discussion. The most famous one is probably an old monk, an old wizened monk. He's sitting there, and beside him there's the young monk, the novice, the newbie, all bright and eager. And the young one says to the old one, "So what happens now?" And the old one says, "Nothing. This is it."